Senator from Florida.
And I want to thank the Senator for his kind comments. This issue is one that I think matters to all 100 members of this chamber and millions of Americans. And I too find it timely that here we are on 73 years to the day of the incredible sacrifices that were made on that beach in Normandy, and that we have the opportunity to honor the men and women who have served us before then and since then, and particularly those who are now in need of services with the passage of what is truly landmark legislation, and I'll talk about that in a moment. And it is our hope, I think, of all of those of us who are supporting this, that it will help bring accountability for generations of those who have served and will serve to protect our great nation. We live in a time of an outrage culture where in order to make the news every evening, you've got to be involved in some controversy or say something over the top, or that's just the way things are these days. And so when something positive happens, it doesn't get a lot of coverage. And it's my sense that while we're not doing this for purposes of getting coverage, many Americans tonight, as they watch the news or go on the internet, will have no idea that the Senate took this up. And I think it's unfortunate because in addition to the importance of this piece of legislation, it is a testament that despite all of the important issues and the noise and the arguments you hear every day on television, our republic still works, and that men and women of good faith can come together across political ideology and partisan lines on an issue that wasn't easy to work through for a couple of years. And I hope that there's an opportunity to point to this and say that on something that was important, this is not a symbolic resolution. This is a change in the laws of our country that will bring accountability to one of the most important functions that our government provides the men and women who serve us in uniform, and that's the Veterans Administration. And that's why I preface my comments on all this and on the fact that this is not going to get a lot of attention because it's not controversial. If there was a big fight going on the floor about this right now and people bickering and arguing, then it would get more coverage. But the fact that we were able to come together across party lines on a difficult issue and get it done should not be a reason to not recognize its importance. And so while, again, that's not why we're doing it to make a change. I do think it's important to preface everything I'm about to say by saying what an honor and a pleasure it has been to work with the chairman, Senator Isaacson, and with the ranking member, Senator Tester, and all the members of the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee on what is truly now bipartisan legislation that is before the Senate. I remain grateful to the committee for their efforts, which will help bring needed accountability reforms to the department. This is an issue, as I said, that we've been working on for several years, and I'm pleased that we are now on a path to enact real change. This spring marks 3 years since light was shed on the veterans who died while they were stuck on secret waiting lists at the Department of Veterans Affairs. After it was revealed that the Phoenix, Arizona VA facility had widespread mismanagement and misconduct by its employees, Congress came together and acted promptly. In the wake of that deplorable situation, this chamber responded in a bipartisan way by passing the Veterans Access, Choice, and Accountability Act of 2014. And while many of those reforms have begun to make a difference, we knew even then that it would not be enough. As reflected in the legislation that's now before us, this law, we are seeking to address those shortcomings, and doing so in deference to what the courts have decided is consistent with the Constitution of the United States. Like virtually every member of this chamber, if not every one, over the years I have met with veterans throughout my home state of Florida, and I have found that many share a common frustration and disappointment and often express resignation that meaningful accountability has yet to come or occur at the VA. It is my hope that that begins to change with this vote here today. These men and women, our veterans, have sacrificed much for our country, and it is our duty to take care of them when they come home after taking care of us. Sadly, for many, this solemn obligation and promise has not been kept. Plain and simple, ineffective governance is unfair to our veterans and to the American taxpayer. The VA must be properly managed so that it can provide timely, quality care to veterans and be held accountable to all Americans. Now let me preface what I've just said, let me follow up what I just said by making it abundantly clear. The overwhelming majority of the people who work at the VA are good, hardworking employees who serve our veterans well. Many of them are veterans themselves. This is not a punitive measure, nor is it meant to degrade the work that they are doing under very difficult circumstances. But it has become clear that under the current law, the VA often is unwilling or unable to hold individuals appropriately accountable for their actions and/or misdeeds. Usually not because they don't want to, but because under the law they just can't. Even in instances in which disciplinary action against an employee was attempted, the complexity, the lengthiness of the process often prevented meaningful consequences. And the unfortunate reality is that as a result, those few but significant number of negligent employees often went unpunished. And to shield employees from consequences brings down the entire department. It demoralizes the workforce. It undermines the core mission of the VA. And that comes not from political talking points, but from many of the men and women who work at the VA themselves. We must not allow bureaucratic red tape to get in the way of ensuring our VA is staffed by those who belong there and are willing to perform the important task of serving our heroes. And so it is our hope and my belief that this law will change the VA, and it will change it for the better. Simply put, the law gives the VA secretary the authority to reprimand, to suspend, to demote, or to remove any employee if their behavior or their performance warrants such an action. Importantly, these reforms establish a period of adequate notice and response and final decision on disciplinary action initiated by the Secretary, and it's under an enforceable and capped time frame. So while the employee is getting due notice and the opportunity to defend themselves, it doesn't drag on forever. It also provides a new avenue for whistleblowers, so they can come forward without fear of retaliation through the establishment of an Office of Accountability and Whistleblower Protection. And this is critical because, as we have seen, in order to uncover many of these abuses at the department, we oftentimes need or rely on information directly from those who have seen it happen and are involved. So in summary, this bill will protect our veterans while also serving as a means to protect the countless well-performing, dedicated VA employees and whistleblowers at the department who are frustrated that just a handful of bad apples are standing in the way of providing the service they signed up to provide. This bill will also ensure that VA employees' due process rights are respected and not infringed upon. This is not an anti-VA employee law. It is designed to reward those who work hard and perform, and to identify and remove those who do not. I'm proud to say this bill would not have been possible without the support of our current VA Secretary. We worked closely with him and his office to ensure that the provisions would provide the tools that they needed for them and for future secretaries so they can carry out their important mission. In addition to the Secretary, the bill has been endorsed by the Office of Special Counsel, Project on Government Oversight, and several veteran service organizations, including the Paralyzed Veterans of America, the American Legion, the Veterans of Foreign Wars, Concerned Veterans for America, Reserve Officers Association, the Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America, American Veterans, and Military Officers Association of America. These organizations serve our veterans admirably. They have valuable firsthand knowledge of veterans' needs, and they agree that this legislation provides overdue reforms to the VA's current broken civil service system. And we are all grateful for their help, their support, and for helping and informing us in tweaking this law so that it actually solved problems. Two more points I want to make, Mr. President. I'm proud that we were able to come together as a unified body, Republican and Democrats, to show the nation that the Republic can still work, that we can work together to solve problems. And hopefully that spirit will carry over into other issues that confront our nation. With today's vote, I think we move one step closer to achieving the worthy goal of bringing accountability and, as a result, an improvement in the VA. And I want to thank my colleagues for joining this fight to better serve our nation's veterans. I close by thanking the people who work day in and day out on this, the staffs of Chairman Isaacson and the Ranking Member Tester, Adam Reese and Jorge Reda, who worked tirelessly on the bill. I want to thank Hazen Marshall and Tom Hawkins with Senator McConnell's office, our cloakroom staff, Laura Dove, Chris Tuck, and Tony Hannigan for your work in getting the bill here today. And on my own personal staff, J.R. Sanchez, who has worked on this personally for 2.5, 3 years, I don't know what he's going to do with his time now, because he has spent so much time and passion in this. He knows many of these veterans personally. And so I'm just, this is a good day, and I look forward to this getting eventually over to the Senate, to the President's office, so that accountability and improvement in performance can finally come to the VA, and the men and women who have taken care of us will finally be taken care of the way they deserve. With that, Mr. President, I yield the floor.